was looking at your bio on the WellsColeman website, and I was surprised reading a few lines. It says, "When not in the office, you can find George barbecuing, hiking, fishing, golfing, mountain biking, playing squash or tennis, or simply spending time with his wife and sons, probably on a soccer sideline or in a park somewhere."
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't sound like an accountant.
Not at all.
Where do you work?
But you know what it didn't say? I don't spend time playing cricket. Because here's the deal, cricket's not a real sport.
Hello and welcome back to our podcast series, CPA Unplugged. Accountants in the American Dream. Today on the show we have a very special guest, George Forsythe, who's the managing partner at WellsColeman. I'm here in Richmond, Virginia, in his office. Hello, George. Thanks for being on the show. Great journey, great energy. I think you're the poster boy of how accountants are supposed to be. So, how's been your journey as a CPA? I mean, do you really earn it? And
Sure. Well, so I think some would say I'm probably not the poster child. I enjoy having more fun than most accountants. But what I'll say is, back in high school, I took accounting. And the reason I took accounting in high school was my mom ran the office, the back office for a small business. And I got to see the duties that she managed and performed. And so a good piece of that was accounting. And I started to like it. So I took these classes and I learned that by being an accountant, it was a fast track for getting into the FBI as a special agent. And so I was real excited. So when I went to college, my senior year, I was offered the opportunity to work at WellsColeman, where I am now. After my first year, I took the entrance exam for the FBI to become an agent. I wanted to carry a gun and I wanted to chase bad guys. Well, unfortunately, the FBI said I didn't have what it takes. But the accounting profession said, that's fine, we'll take you anyway. And so I've been at the firm.
Did you know Mark Koziel had the same aspirations?
I did not know that. I know Mark very well. We've never
I had a
talked about
podcast with Mark, and he said the same thing. He wanted to get into the FBI, and that's why he took accounting. So how many such accountants are there in America who wanted to get into the FBI?
Two.
And became...
Two. And you've met both of them.
Okay, so what happened? So you gave a test at FBI. They didn't take you in. They didn't they said we don't want cool guys. We want.
Well, the thing is it's sort of like Myers-Briggs and the personality tests. That was what I recall that test being like. A lot of Myers-Briggs type questions, and afterwards they were just like, "We're good here. We don't need you."
Oh.
So I don't know what Mark's reason is. Mark probably made it much further in the process, but in any event, so after that was the first kind of inflection point in my career. I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Very goal driven, work hard to achieve things. And I was like, you know what? I've actually really been enjoying these past few years at WellsColeman, working with clients, I had passed the CPA exam at that point, and I really felt like I found my calling. And so now it's been 28 years, and I'm still with WellsColeman, only I'm the managing partner, not an entry-level staff accountant.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's been a very, very long journey. And what's been the best pieces that you had in this journey? Every time you got promoted, I'm sure it's been intern, mid-level, senior level, and managing partner.
Well, our firm was it was a small local firm. So two guys, Mac Wells and John Coleman, they were college buddies in South Carolina. Mac Wells' father was ill, and he said to his college buddy, John Coleman, how about we go back to Richmond and run my daddy's firm? And so they came back, they were young, they're outdoorsmen, and so every day they would either hunt or fish in the morning, they would have an after hunt or fish cocktail and lunch, and they'd come into the office around 3 o'clock and do some tax returns for a few hours. They did this every day. And so the culture of this firm has been very work hard, play hard, very family friendly oriented. And so the best part, I'll have to say, is the people. They built an environment where the people were fantastic. And it didn't just stem to those that work here, it was also the clients that engage them. So our clients aren't just clients, they're our friends, and we enjoy having fun. We get the work done. You have to get the work done. That's 101. But you can enjoy the process, and that's a big part of what makes WellsColeman unique.
I was looking at your bio on the WellsColeman website, and I was surprised reading a few lines. It says, "When not in the office, you can find George barbecuing, hiking, fishing, golfing, mountain biking, playing squash or tennis, or simply spending time with his wife and sons, probably on a soccer sideline or in a park somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't sound like an accountant.
Not at all.
Where do you work?
But you know what it didn't say? I don't spend time playing cricket. Because here's the deal. Cricket's not a real sport. Now those are real sports. No.
But that's really
Amazing.
fun for accountants.
No, yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
So in that family-friendly spirit, so about 5 or 6 years ago, one of my clients, who's a good friend, we put together a group. And so we've got a group of 8 guys that all like the outdoors and like to hike. And so a few guys have come in and out of the group over the years, but we've done hikes like the rim to rim of the Grand Canyon.
I saw a picture on Mount Kilimanjaro.
The next one was Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa.
Wow.
We had a group of 8 guys that summited Kili. We've also done Rainier out in Seattle. We've done Washington, it's outside of Seattle. We've also been to Banff, and then this year...
How do you manage the tax busy seasons and the
figure it out. This year we went to Iceland.
Wow.
So it's a great group of guys, but what they all have in common is they're clients of our firm, they're friendly, and they are all small business owners.
Aren't accountants supposed to be boring? I mean, I was reading one of the articles relating to the accounting shortage, and it says, you're not underpaid, you're bored.
Yeah. So that was probably written by a lawyer, that article. No, I think in all professions, there's certainly a diverse group of people, but here at WellsColeman, we're looking for people that want to work hard and also play hard. And so I feel like our office culture is very fun, very jovial. Like you could be walking down the hall and someone's going to zing you with a joke, and you just, you come back and, everyone laughs. And I think it keeps people returning to the office with a smile. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
Wow. So you're like one of the coolest managing partners, or perhaps the coolest managing partners ever.
Well, I think people would say the most inappropriate and probably a legal risk.
Amazing. So, you've grown up the ladder, past your CPA. I mean, how's things changed? Since when you became a CPA? I don't know, decades back until today. What do you see in terms of changing landscape in accounting?
So I was probably one of the last classes before it went to 150 credits. And so I have a 4-year degree, 120 credits from a local college in Virginia. And the way that you would pass the exam back then is you would take a review course, very similar to now, very similar to Miles. And so here in Richmond, there was a guy, he was a professor at the University of Richmond. His name was Joe Ben Hoyle. And Joe Hoyle was a professor that never passed the exam in Virginia, which allowed him to go and take the exam every year. And he would go and intentionally fail the exam so that way he saw what questions were in the exam.
Wow.
Then he would go back and he would teach his students, here is where the exam is moving, these are the types of questions. And he taught them how to think through the way the exams were being put together. And it was an amazing, innovative approach at the time for how to prepare for the exam. And his success rate, super huge. And then after 20 or so years, he sold it, I think, to Becker. He did very well, as I'm sure you'll do with Miles. And so now you have the 150 hours. So you have this additional amount of credits you have to obtain. But I think the approach is still very much the same. People are seeking assistance in exam prep, whether it be Miles, Becker, Ninja, whatever they're using. That model is still the same, even though maybe you got to have 150 versus 120.
And of course, even the CPA exams have really evolved. I mean, there's the CPA Evolution 2024 happening where a lot of focus around tech and accounting.
Sure.
And this is not just on the exams. We see that as a trend everywhere. So I read about you. You're like a tech guru. I mean, an accountant, tech guru. I mean, something doesn't add up, George.
So my father was a computer programmer. And what I will say is, it was very common that I would come home after school and sports or what have you, and my dad would be programming into the night with a computer, green screen. At his office, they had punch cards. This goes way, way, way back. And one of the things I felt was like, I'm never going to do technology. Like I was like, it's been such a part of our family environment that I'm not going to do that. Well, I started at WellsColeman, failed the entrance into the FBI. And what I began doing is they asked me like, hey, will you help clients set up QuickBooks? And I was like, fine. And it was like very easy for me because I had this comfort level with technology where at the time a lot of people were not as comfortable. And so to date, I've done probably 2,000 to 3,000 QuickBooks installations over the years.
Wow.
And know it very well. And so technology, I started to see it differently. I wasn't programming. I was being more of a, customization and installation expert. And what I found was if I could make it easy on our clients to achieve their objectives and they got the information out of it, they didn't use all the features, they used the features they needed, that was very rewarding. And they very much appreciated what I was doing for them. So I found success in that. I found that I was making a difference. I enjoyed that, and that's addictive. And so I wanted to do more of that. So I went to the partners and I said, I have a proposition for you. I want to go to UVA and get a master's in information systems. And I put a proposal together, and it was expensive and it took a lot of time. And they agreed to do it. I was like, what? I thought that they were like, no, we're not paying for you to get a master's degree. And so they did that. And so at the time, this was before the technology bubble burst, the way that we used that, education was in our own technology. And not that we created things, we just had an ability to evaluate tech options and not be cutting edge, but we were definitely leading edge. And so over the years, we've invested in technologies that take other firms a really long while to adopt, whether it be cloud-based technology, whether it's, you think these things are so simple these days, but like encrypted email. Before encrypted became common, I was like, guys, it's only a matter of time before one of our emails gets misused and a client sues us because we didn't secure their financial data. So we were sending encrypted emails like in the first year that technology was available to firms our size.
Wow.
And so we tend to always stay a little bit
Ahead of the curve.
a little ahead of the curve, but not on the very front because those people, they take a lot of arrows. We want to be just behind them.
The second mover advantage kind of.
There you go.
And what kind of tech initiatives are you taking at WellsColeman in particular? Any advices for the accounting
Yeah.
profession, for a lot of other CPA firms?
Well, I don't want to give other firms too much advice, but so right now we're taking advantage of artificial intelligence and robotic process automation. We're trying to automate things where possible. I'll tell you, I had the world's on fire right now with ChatGPT.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think if I have my dates right, it was maybe October, November. It was unveiled on the world. We go into busy season, and I didn't have a lot of time to devote to it until about May. So in May, I start playing around with it, but I go out to one of my clients, and my client, coincidentally, IT guy himself, is from India. He's got a team here and a team overseas, and the normal process is I would come and visit him, and I would text him, I'm here, I'm out at outside your front door that's locked, come get me when you're ready. Well, unbeknownst to me, on his side, what he was experiencing was, oh no, George is here, I forgot he was coming today. And so he comes and lets me in, and I was like, so what do you want to talk about today? He's like, well, it's funny, George, I forgot you were coming, so here's what I did. I said, he loaded chat, I run a 100-person IT consulting company. What should my CPA be advising me? And it gave him a list of 10 things, and then he said, is there anything else? Is there anything else? And then it gave him 10 more things, and he was like, is that all? And it gave him 10 more things. He said, all right, one more time. So he had 4 pieces of paper with 10 items on it, so 40 items. He goes, George, this is what I want to talk about today. And so I said, all right, that's fine. I'm going to play your game, but here's the rules.
Love your client as well. I think
As we go through,
beats you at your game.
oh, absolutely. I was like, as we go through this list, we're going to do 3 things. We're going to say, I already told you about it. It doesn't apply, and I shouldn't have told you about it, or I failed and didn't tell you about it, and I should. And so what we both learned in that experience was chat was very much on point. It wasn't perfect, but its ideas were very relevant.
Wow.
And there were a few just out of the ballpark, goofy things. But at the end, I left there, and on my ride back to the office, I was like, I can't believe that just happened. And then I went to, how would anyone on our team handle it if they were in the same situation? So I called a staff meeting and I told our staff.
Just 4 pieces of paper?
Yeah, I told our staff, I said, guys, this is what just happened to me.
I got ambushed.
Right, I got ambushed by a client with chat. He had his armor, he was ready to go. I said, so the lesson is this. It's here, embrace it, and do your homework before you go and visit the client. Spin it and be like, I'm visiting an IT consulting company. What are the big issues facing IT consulting firms right now? There are ways to use it to your advantage. And don't be surprised if they're doing that themselves. He wasn't trying to ambush me. He thought it'd be fun. It was fun. But what it did is it enabled both of us to be better prepared. And so great experience. And so I've shared that. The second, speaking of chat experience I've had, we're part of the BDO Alliance. BDO is great. And one of the benefits of being a part of that alliance is occasionally we run into very technical areas and we don't know how to handle them. So you reach out to your alliance and you say, hey, can you help me with XYZ technical issue? And so the issue that I had run into was how to account for some specifics of stock warrants. And it was an area that I don't account for on the regular. And so I was like, BDO, help me out. They were glad to help me out. They charge a fee for that. And it's not a cheap fee. So they spend,
Naturally.
Right, they spend a couple hours. I get a bill for $2,000. I solve a client's problem. Well, as I'm thinking about chat, I was like, this is the most recent example where I needed a targeted education, and I went to a trusted source, which was BDO, and I got what I needed. I asked chat the exact same question.
And you got the exact same answer.
And I got the exact same answer.
Wow, man, you
And I got it.
$2,000.
And I got it in 30 seconds.
And you can get ChatGPT for $10 a month.
Right. And so the lesson there is, chat is not authoritative, but nor is BDO. BDO interpreted whatever rules and laws, and they gave me their answer. They provided tax code sections and what have you. Chat can do the same thing. And so basically, it's a tool, and the way that I'm looking at it, and with our team, is it should be a starting point, but it's not the only point. You take this technology, you use it to make your jobs easier, but you don't solely rely on it. And that's the problem that we see with folks that know QuickBooks, for example. Are you a full charge bookkeeper, or do you just know the software? And so you can tell if you know bookkeeping if QuickBooks is doing it right or wrong. Just because you know how to use the software doesn't mean you're getting to the right result. And I feel that chat is very similar. It's a solution, but it's not always getting you the right solution.
Absolutely amazing. So, and you spoke about RPA. How are you using robotic process automation? I mean, are you using in audit and taxes, doing the same thing again and again?
Yeah.
What kind of tools are you using, and is it really working out?
So it is working out. So our initiative is with not being able to find people, right? The global staffing shortages, and definitely areas where Miles is helping the world in the accounting profession. But one of the things that we're attempting to do is if I can't find people, I need to at least make the jobs that my people have easier and better.
Absolutely.
And so if we create a lift by using RPA as an example, I have a choice. Do I ask my staff to do more work in the time that they've now saved? Or do I say, take a moment, breathe, go to your kid's soccer game.
Go mountain hiking.
Right, exactly.
Go fishing.
Exactly. And so that is part of our culture. And so we're leveraging technology and other objectives to create capacity, not to fill the capacity with more work. And we feel that with that, what we're going to get is we're going to get retention. And we're going to get happy people. So how we're using it right now, we are not yet fully deploying it on our client work. What we're doing is we're doing the low-hanging fruit approach. Anything that we do internally that is repetitive, we are evaluating, can we automate any or the full aspect of this? And so what our staff have been instructed to do is they email a request, I would like this automated. They have to tell me how often they do the task and how long it takes. And then on an annual basis, how much time will be saved. And then they have to tell me, what are they going to do with their time savings?
Wow.
Rather than, I'm just going to save you time, I want to know how you're going to spend the time savings.
You enforce a lot of accountability.
Right.
You seem like a cool, easygoing guy.
Yeah, and I don't care what their answer is. I just want them to be
The right
intentional,
questions.
be intentional
Absolutely.
and deliberate. And so where we've used it right now, one example is we're a deadline-oriented profession.
Absolutely.
So we have client lists of, I've got to file all these tax returns by these dates. So I get, every morning, I get updates on which stage those returns are in. So that way I can go and check in and get with people and I can allocate resources. And so like if I have a lot of returns in prep today, well that means I'm gonna have a lot of returns in technical review tomorrow. And then, so we use it as indicators. And so, we get that data without someone having to sit there, run reports, analyze it. All that's done with the RPA.
Amazing.
And it lands in my inbox at 5 a.m.
So you're an amazing data-driven public accounting firm.
Database decisions tend to be the better decisions made.
So again, George, I think the proposition that Miles is working on is very, very similar to what you're actually doing inside of your firm, right? So it's like accounting plus technology. I mean, you did a bachelor's in accounting, and then you did a master's in IT, and then we said, okay, you know what? How do we combine both of them and have an accounting plus tech masters?
Sure.
And what that does is number one, it solves for accountants getting educated in technology. I mean, typically a lot of accountants are scared of tech. I mean, we don't have a lot of tech gurus like you. So typically sort of bringing accounting closer to tech. And second, of course, you have the international candidates who pursue these programs in the US universities also get eligible for an extended OPT where they're allowed to work for 3 years instead of 1 year. So that sort of gives them better outcomes and a longer runway to work and maybe live their American dream.
Sure.
So you have a couple of folks in your team. We met G and we met Tanish, and they've done masters in accounting and finance, and of course they were non-STEM, so they get a 1 year OPT. And now you're working with Miles on of course you're interviewing right now, but on this model of accounting becoming STEM and a 3 year OPT. What's the feeler that you have on this model in terms of outcomes and in terms of getting more talent?
Sure. And so I'll start very close to home. So I have 2 sons, a senior in high school and a sophomore in college. And both work for our firm. They both work remotely. They don't work on site. One's out of state. He's at the University of Georgia. And as they're working for the firm, it has exposed areas where we can improve the firm. My son that's at the University of Georgia, he's just declared accounting as a major, and one of the things he's considering is a 5th year add-on, which would make him eligible for the CPA exam. And that 5th year will be no surprise to you. He's looking at like a data analytics master's. And so when you couple accounting as both a language and a profession, and you layer the data analytics components on top of it, it's the be all end all. I wish that were available to me back when I graduated, because I could take computer programming, but data analytics wasn't a thing, right? So now when you put those two together, and in my own family, this is the path that we think makes the most sense and is strategic. Look at the types of talent we're bringing to our firm. Well, Tanish, as an example, he has his accounting degree, but he also has data analytics. And some of the things that Tanish has under his belt is R, Python, SQL. Right. So with my RPA guy and with Tanish, I'm like, how about this season, you two shadow each other while you're doing real work and identify all the opportunities for automation, artificial intelligence, repetition. I want to know all the things we can do that we're not doing from your perspective. Up till now, a lot of the things we've been doing has been from my perspective. So I see this is being repeated. Okay, great. Can you guys apply some energy there? I think when people that are naturally curious and are naturally want to improve the way they do things, when they're coming to us with those ideas, that is when I think we're going to have really achieved success at the firm. The Japanese call it Kaizen. Yeah, Kaizen.
Incremental improvements every day, every month. Yeah.
There you go. And so next week, we have 2 guys coming in. We had hired one of them like 10 years ago, and they do Lean Six Sigma for CPA firms. And so our intent is, we've been making improvements, but I'd like you to come in and assess us. It's kind of like having a physical with your doctor. You come back a few years later and have another physical, and am I doing better? Am I doing worse? What should I change? So they're coming in next week, and they're going to look at our tax process and our audit process and identify where's their low-hanging fruit that simple little changes will add a lot more hours back to our staff. Because, frankly, staff everywhere, they're struggling. It's a lot of work in little time. And so we're trying to create all these little
But
ways.
why do you think, George? Why is America struggling with accounting talent? Why people are why are I mean, your son's taking up accounting as a major. Very happy to know that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's inspired by you. I mean, he's such a cool dad. But do we need more Georges, the cool accountants around?
No.
How do we make? I was at a CFO conference with the AICPA, and my slide read, how do we make accounting sexy again?
Sure.
And people had the problem with the word again. They were like,
Not
accounting was
the word
never
sexy. Yeah. So I'll say this. There's a lot of different perspectives, and right now I've been very involved in our state society and with the AICPA, and there are different theories. Some people feel that the 150-hour rule is deterring folks from coming to accounting. That may or may not be the case. Others feel that starting salaries in the accounting profession are deterring people from coming to the CPA profession. And so, as an example, if I have a 4-year data degree and I can start out making 80 to 100 grand, or I can have a 5-year degree in accounting and start out at 60, well, which choice am I going to make? Well, it's short-sighted if that's the only things I'm looking at, because if I look long-term, I think accounting and being a CPA outperforms almost all other professions.
Which means you're making a lot of money.
Which means that a lot of people are making a lot of money. I hope one day I'll be one of them. But I will tell you, what's interesting is like, are you a short-term view or are you a long-term view? And I think that's one of the things that this generation, they have instant gratification because of technology. And I think that spills over into other aspects of their life. What type of profession do I want? Am I going to take a long-term view or a very short-term view? And I know the AICPA is analyzing this. There's been a lot of discussion. I think to a degree, a lot of this has been fueled by DEI. When you have a 5th-year requirement, you have a barrier to entry that maybe other professions don't have. I think the most important thing to me is substantial equivalency. And substantial equivalency is all about CPA mobility. If we change the rules in one state and they're different than another to where now CPAs can't practice anywhere, I think we're going to cause more harm than good. And I think it doesn't solve
complicated, right? 55 state boards of accountancy.
Absolutely. And so it's complex, and they're working on it. And that I have faith that we're going to come to a better place and a right decision. Without saying what I think the right decision should be, what's important to me is that we maintain mobility and we maintain the respect of the public in what we do.
And I think a lot of initiatives that we see from the AICPA and from state societies in terms of how do we increase the accounting pipeline. I think from a firm perspective, given the accountant shortage, one of the solutions that a lot of firms look at is technology in terms of trying to reduce workload. Another solution is outsourcing or offshoring.
Sure.
India in a lot of ways is the mothership. You have the bigger public accounting firms, the mid tiers, a lot of third-party public accounting firms really mushrooming, and hundreds of thousands of accountants in India working on U.S. audits, U.S. tax, really working very hard in terms of supporting America. There was a very interesting article a few months back in the Washington Post. The headline was "The Accountant Shortage Threatens Capitalism's Future," and a lot of Indian accountants feel that we're having a role in saving capitalism. So.
Sure, that's right.
So that's the traditional way of in terms of you don't find talent here. Use tech to sort of optimize how much talent you need, and then outsource work to India or any other country. Now we're also working on a model in terms of trying to get some Indian accountants into the US to work in your local office, and it's sort of like a complementary piece to that outsourcing piece. What do you think of this entire global talent landscape, or let's say if there's a talent shortage in America? And if I look at, let's say, India, right, there are a lot of accountants there. I'm not saying all of them are fully skilled, but a lot of them are on the way. Many chartered accountants, really smart folks. CPA exams are in India. Miles is doing a lot in terms of increasing the CPA pipeline. So you have a talent shortage in America and you have a talent surplus in India. How do you think in terms of leveraging talent across geographies in terms of solving for this accounting shortage?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we have to do regarding the pipeline is we have to get in front of people at their youngest opportunity. The earlier we get in front of them and expose them to accounting,
High school maybe.
high school, maybe middle school. I feel like, for me, like I got exposed probably in my middle school years watching my mom do accounting and learn what it is.
So your mom was an accountant, dad was an engineer.
Yeah, my mom's an office manager who meant she did everything, including accounting. But yeah, so when you think about it with the talent surplus, talent shortage, to me, one of our biggest issues is immigration rules, right? So we've had a very wild ride regarding immigration in the United States.
Absolutely.
I think that the easier that we can make an appropriate level of immigration functional, the better we're going to all be. We need immigration to make things work in the United States. One of the challenges that we've had in the past few years is that we have this need. India has these people, and by our requirements, we can't get the people here to solve our need. So that's created opportunities for people to spin up businesses. Great, well, we'll do the work for you from India, and we'll allow you to offshore and all that stuff. Wonderful, but that doesn't fix the legislative process by which someone could immigrate and be an employee here. And if that's the American dream or the beginning of it, I think we have to address that. It is clear that our pipeline here is challenged. I feel that whatever we can do to improve that, we should at least investigate and consider. And so I'm not a hunter, but the way I understand it, hunters often use a shotgun. And the way a shotgun works is when the shot comes out, it splatters. And I think of like these challenges as like we need a shotgun approach where we're not using a silver bullet. This one approach is going to solve everything. We need to be trying a little bit of everything. And maybe some things are a little bit stickier than others and they work, but by trying lots of things, we're more apt to land on a solution than by thinking we all have the one right answer.
So I sort of often look at the tech playbook, George, and we talk about tech and accounting, but now we're talking about deep tech, right? So when you look at tech companies, decades back, they've been going through a similar challenge. Even today, but it was more in the last few decades where you need so many engineers, you're trying to build up tech here, and you can't find enough talent, right? And that is where the entire STEM thing came into being. STEM programs, which allows an extended OPT, and then of course sponsoring for H1Bs. And very very interestingly, these tech companies, you have a lot of services companies in tech, very large Indian companies, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, really doing a fantastic job in terms of building in huge shops, and of course even the biggies, the Microsofts and Googles, and having huge amount of workforce here in the US and back in India, and a lot of work being sent from India, from US to India, and a lot of engineers also coming in from India to the US, and it sort of became like a very good complementary model, and it stays such. And that was basically the reference model for us. Like accounting today is facing the same challenge that tech has gone through. And the way tech solved it, can we use the same solutions? And I think that's where the Masters of Accounting, converting to STEM, getting people here, and of course complementing it with the entire outsourcing piece in terms of some work going in there. You've extended teams and then doing this. Of course, immigrations, H1Bs, they're not very easy, but of course, if you get an extended runway, that's great. So how do you feel if you have a hardworking, hungry Indian accountant coming and telling you, okay, hey, I've done my Masters of Accounting with STEM, and I can work with you for 3 years. After 3 years, the H1B lottery may happen, may not happen. How do you feel about that proposition?
Well, so the way that I'm looking at it is, number one, if they get here earlier and we start applying, I want multiple chances at that lottery.
Yeah,
like
3 to 4.
Right, like the way I understand it is like my chances of winning if I just play once aren't as good as if I play 4 times. Now, it costs me each time I buy the ticket.
Are you a casino guy?
Well, maybe. And so I'm all about it, and I also liken it to like, what are our options? So let's say right now I need someone desperately, and I hire a recruiter. The recruiter is going to say, our fees are 25%, and I'm going to give you a guarantee period of maybe 90 days. Okay, So that's one option at getting talent. Oh, and by the way, everybody else thinks that that option works, so there's a lot of competition. When I look at the Miles education approach, okay, there are fees associated. We're talking 3 years. Okay, and if someone can't convert through H-1B at the end of 3 years, does Miles have more people that can come and in behind them? I personally feel that I have more control in that model than I do in the existing alternative. And so I'm open to it. And the H-1B fees, they're not insurmountable. They're
The cost
doable for the right person. It's a no-brainer.
It's a $10. So the barrier to entry for an H-1B nomination is very, very less, George. It's only a $10 fee that you need to nominate somebody into the lottery. And the good thing is, right, sort of the Masters in Accounting with STEM allows you 2 shots at the lottery every year. So you can do 3 to 4 shots, and you get 2 shots at the lottery every year because there's the 2 quotas. There's one quota for advanced masters in the US and one general quota. And these folks are going to be eligible for both. Again, it's still a lottery, it's still a casino, but
Right.
your chances are more.
But in
More
this
than
year, so we
Yes.
so we have 2 from India and 1 from Japan.
Mhm.
And we attempted the lottery. We hired an immigration attorney to help us with the process, and it can be expensive. And so if this becomes part of our strategy, we're going to want to get better at it to improve our chances, and we're going to want to minimize the administrative costs.
Absolutely.
And so when I think of like opportunities, and maybe Miles is a good partner for this, is how can we make this simpler
And
for
cheaper.
everybody? And cheaper. And,
Absolutely.
and part of making it simpler is people need to just understand this is the process and these are the choices, like a flow chart.
And
Anytime.
it's not complicated. It's just that people haven't done it. I mean, when we started this, George, accounting OPT 3 years, accounting STEM, and we went to firms, we talking to recruiters. They're like, "This is too good to be true. Is this really happening?"
Right.
I'm like, "Yes, it's too good and true." And then of course the 3 years is sorted. How do you do beyond the 3 years? And the H-1B piece, number one, of course, you want people to stay longer, and second, it also is an incentive for those candidates that they're having a shot at a longer duration to live their great American dream.
Yeah, and so we did not understand that there was a distinction between OPT and CPT. We didn't understand where STEM came into play, right? These are all things that we're learning right now. And what's interesting is that we've met Miles as we've been getting educated by our staff. They know the options because they're talking to their peers that might be in Miles, that this is how they're making it happen. And so we're relying on them to educate us versus like, we're the employer, we ought to know this. And so we've been working very hard on understanding what the landscape is, what our options are, so that way we can develop our strategy. And I feel like for other firms, they're not even in the game. They don't even recognize that there's something happening here. And so all that's great. Like, we're gonna work that out, we're gonna process orient it, and we're gonna be successful at it, whereas other firms may not.
So as much as we're talking about accounting, I think another piece here is the American dream.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
What, as per you, is the great American dream?
It's funny because obviously I take it for granted so I was born in the U.S. Interestingly enough, I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. My father.
Wow. That's why you're this cool dude.
Well, my father was in the Marines, and so one of the things that I say, and it certainly upsets my wife, is I say I'm Polynesian, just like Barack Obama, because I was born in Hawaii, and so I'm not Polynesian. I was born in Hawaii.
Beach, yeah.
Right, exactly. So in any event, the thing is like when you think about the American dream, I think what it means to most people is it means opportunity, and it means if I want it, I can get it, I can achieve it. I'm certainly going to have to work for it, but it is possible. So whatever I can think of, it can happen. And that, to me, that dream, that hope, that becomes drive, is what's amazing, and that's what makes American great. What I will tell you is there are a lot of people that are here that don't necessarily share those same values, and that makes it difficult. It makes it unfortunate that there are people that would do anything to be here, and there are people that are here and take it for granted. And so we've got a lot of fixing to do, I'd say.
Amazing. And and I think one of the good things that's happening is even the India-US relationships. I mean, the world's largest democracy is they're coming closer. A lot of things happening. You have a couple of in few Indian accountants in your firm as well, and I hear you going for a big fat Indian wedding.
Absolutely.
Tell us more.
Yeah. So my guy G is getting married over Thanksgiving, and so he invited us. And he didn't really invite us. He said, "You're coming to my wedding." It was a little bit more of a like expectation, and so we talked about it. And so here from work, so I'm going, and then a young woman, Ryan, she's going, and then her sister and my family. So there's going to be 6 of us.
Wow.
He's getting married in the state of Gujarat, a little town called Anand, just outside of Ahmedabad. And we're going over there, and I will tell you, I'm to the moon. And the reason why I'm so excited is I love other cultures. I love learning about them. I know a lot of times, to be politically correct, there's certain things you shouldn't say, you shouldn't ask. What I've found is that the guys that work here at our firm that are from other countries, they're completely open and they love to share their experience. And so what I'm expecting is I'm going to go over there and I'm going to get a first-hand view of the culture and the people. And I know that there's going to be a lot more people than I'm used to on a daily basis. And I know I shouldn't drink the water and things are going to go wrong. But I am so excited and looking forward to this. But one of the best parts is the close. So when you go to a traditional Indian wedding, you don't know like what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. And learning the process and all of the events has just been absolutely amazing. So 2 weekends ago in Richmond, it was the India, like a taste of India kind of at our convention center. Like tens of thousands of people down there. My wife and I were probably one of the few Caucasians, and we had an absolute blast. We had different foods. We met with the vendors. We said, we're going to a wedding. Help us buy the clothes that we need because none of them make sense to us. And so I left with a couple shirts, like one for, is it the Mendi ceremony? And I've got my green.
You put the mehendi on the hands, you
Yeah.
try all of that.
Gonna do all that.
Wife now? Oh.
Yeah, and she bought some dresses, and then one of the ones she bought, we learned it's red, and apparently what they didn't tell us is the bride often wears red, so you don't wear the same color dress as the bride. But in any event, like all those things, while for most people that would stress them out, like we're looking at it as this is how we're learning the culture, and we're gonna go over there and we're gonna meet people, and I honestly I cannot wait. One of our personal friends is in India now. They've lived there. And his business is he sets up soccer clubs. And so he happens to be setting up, think youth soccer. He's setting up a club right now in Ahmedabad. And so we're going to work out, going to visit his club and
Wow.
seeing that too. So we're going to meet the people. We're going to see some businesses that are being set up over there and really turn it into a real immersion.
So if I step into G's shoes right now, I've worked for this firm for a year and a half. I have a cool boss, and I'm going back to India to get married. And my boss is coming with his family to really have a great time. He's so excited about it. I mean, life just can't get better.
Well, I hope he feels that way. I mean, we're committed to him. G's a great guy, and we want him to be here for a really long time.
Amazing.
The way to do that is to invest in him.
So George, we have a huge number of Indian accountants coming to the US. We have about 300 who come in this year. This is going to be a few thousands next year. Before we close, any word, any message that you would have for so many Indian accountants who work really hard. Many of them, of course, want to be in India. They want to be close to the family, closer to home. Work for Indian firms, work for American firms, global firms. And then, of course, there's a lot of them who want to come to America, live the great American dream, experience a different culture, really grow. What would be your message to G and to those thousands of accountants, Indian accountants like G, who are very ambitious?
So I would say, consider your audience. So if someone wanted to work at WellsColeman, do your research on WellsColeman and make sure that what you're telling WellsColeman is true to them and true to you. So if you wanted to work here, we really much enjoy a work hard, play hard culture. So we want people that have a personality. They're willing to put in the work, but they're willing to step away and have fun. I think communication is a huge key. And I don't mean communication in the sense of accents. I mean more like you speak proactively and timely. if we have to reach out and ask you where you are and what you're doing, that you missed an opportunity to proactively tell me where things stand. And so communication to me beats probably everything else. And so as long as people are clear and communicate well, they're going to have success. It's when, and I think maybe it's a tendency to, I don't know how this is going to be received, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to go introverted. I think people often overlook those that are inward. And so if you're going to come from India to the US and you're going to live your American dream, be bold, be honest, over communicate, and don't be afraid to have fun. And I think that everyone will be better off with that kind of approach.
Amazing. Thank you so much, George. It was
Very nice.
really a
Thank
pleasure
you.
and an honor. This was super amazing. I think
Yeah,
you
this
were
was
like
fun.
live vibe. You're like an accountant who's a sports guy, loves everything else, who loves technology. Dude,
Yeah.
why didn't they make accountants like this anymore?
I've been asking everybody that myself.
Thank you
Great,
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.